Hello, welcome, thank you. So now here preparing the fireplace space for possible outdoor meditation class tonight. Uh, do it every Wednesday night. Uh, we archive it on Patreon, patreon.com/SundayFarm, and people join by Zoom, and obviously people come in person, 6:30 New York time every Wednesday. And it might be mild enough to come outside and sit around the fire. Anyway, this is set to be update, I think 22 uh, on the health illness updates. So as usual, I'm going to check my phone. The last one was March 9th, and today is March 27th. So I'm going to just look at my calendar so I can kind of see what happened since March 9th. So March 4th, I started my SBRT treatment. That's the radiation treatment for my left lung, and the two um, tumors there. At one point, I asked specifically, is the correct term nodule, lesion, or tumor? And I was told by the doctor, the radiation oncologist, use anyone you want, they're all fine. So I'm sure there's a distinction that I'd be interested in knowing and I think is important, but um, I kind of interchange them because I haven't settled on what's most appropriate. And maybe through the radiation, it changes from, a tumor to a lesion or something. I suppose that's possible, that the definition shifts. Um, anyway, thank you, everybody. Uh, I'll continue to need help, but I'm also continuing to be able to teach, and I'd much rather work for the help I need than ask for it or beg for it. I'd like to, contribute. So that means getting subscribers to patreon.com/somedayfarm, or checking all my links out, somedayfarm.org. Those would include, YouTube and buymeacoffee.com/somedayfarm, other places where I put out content. Some of it free, some of it, pay $1, some of it pay $4, some of it pay $2 per video I post, so whatever. Of course, a lot of people are just helped by adding money to my Cash App or Venmo, or dropping off groceries. Anyway, so March 9th. Um, so by the time I filmed that, which I think was a short update, um, I had done the first two treatments on March 4th and 6th, and I was set to do, oh, I guess I would have done the March 8th one too, because I was set for March 4, 6, 8, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, followed by Monday and Wednesday, ending on the 13th. In the last three, they were having trouble targeting one of the nodules. And I guess they can't be overly adjusty of me once I'm in there, because they have to have me in the same position as when they did the first image and made a plan from that 4D CT scan image. Um, so they had difficulty. They were working on a lower nodule and an upper nodule, and the trouble they were having was targeting, as I understand it, the upper nodule. So they thought, well, we'll just do that on one of the later visits that you're already scheduled for. So rather than targeting two today, we're going to target one. But later, when we were going to target one, we'll target two. So as far as you're concerned, you'll essentially be here at the same time for the same appointment. And some of your appointments will be a little longer that you thought would be shorter, and vice versa. Um, the the I think the Monday they said, okay, we have a different plan, a different way to try it. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I come back Monday, and it turned out they couldn't do it. So then I came in Wednesday, which would have been the last treatment, and they said we have a yet another way to try it. We have another plan. Um, and I went on the table, and at the end of it, they were like, "Actually, no, it didn't work. We can't do it." Which I think is probably good because if they can't do it, it sounds to me like they're not pushing it and adding risk. They're really respecting the bounds of my other structures and tissues. Um, nerves and organs and vertebral column and aorta and ribs and those sort of things. Um, and uh, uh, trachea and heart and lungs and pericardium and all that. So at the end of that, that would have been um, the 13th. I saw the doctor per the schedule, and she said, we couldn't do it. We're sorry. Well, she didn't say we're sorry, but they were basically explaining slash apologetic. And she said, well, um, we have to make a new plan. And we had a long discussion about how that plan would get made. Oh boy, I'm getting tired now. And I said to her, if we wait a little while so I can, reschedule all my sessions, because she was basically saying, I want you to come back Friday. And I was thinking Friday, which would have been the 15th. I was thinking, I've pushed all my schedule off into Friday away from the radiation as best I could. So I have a very full day. And now you're asking me to cancel that. And she was very open to that concern. And I said, well, why don't we schedule it in a month or in a couple of weeks? How would that work? And she said basically that the 4D CAT scan that they had of me, that they would be using to map things, would be um, stale by then, inaccurate, less accurate by then. So we'd have to start everything over, which I guess for me would have meant one more session, which I wouldn't have minded. But it seemed to me at that point that even though she was willing to entertain it, why do the extra stuff? And let me just say yes, and then I'll deal with my students after and apologize and reschedule, which is what I did. So then I went in for a Friday, Monday, Wednesday, 3 sessions, I think solely targeting the upper lobe. The idea is to end on a Wednesday when that radiation oncologist, Dr. Peters, is there, so I can have a, in treatment follow up office visit with the doctor. Anyway, so there was some confusion there because it's called SBRT, S for stereotactic. I think it's stereotactic body radiation therapy. Um, and then what I had seen by that time that I saw the doctor was what was on my, I have an app for the Yale Hospital System, and it's called MyChart. And so on that app, I could see that I was already scheduled, and it was called IMRT therapy. I think actually that was I saw that for the 13th. So I asked about it after I had it, and that stands for intensity modulated radiation therapy, which is different. And what I found out from the doctor after I did it, I decided let me not learn everything about it. Let me just trust him. I'll just go in there. If it's different, it's different. Um, and I learned that basically, from the insurance point of view, they had approved me for SBRT, which was essentially a shorter duration, more complex, where they treat both lesions at once over 5. But since they kind of failed to get the other 3, they were going to do the 5, which I guess there was 5 for the lower, and the last, 3 of those 5 would also be the upper, something like that. And since that couldn't then happen and they were going to reschedule me for a separate 3 somewhere else on the calendar, as it turned out, very soon after, that isn't covered as SBRT therapy, and that's what's pre-approved. And so the only way to cover it is IMRT therapy, which is not actually what they did. It was just called that for insurance purposes. So she said, you're actually getting the same treatment. It's just going to look different, and we're going to get paid less. But basically, nothing for me to worry about, and therefore nothing for you to know about. But I'm trying to be comprehensive and uh, transparent. On that topic, I was supposed to give my talk, the Dallas Cancer, I think in October or November at a local group. I've done it a couple times, so it's a teaching on sort of my approach to this whole process, which includes the thorough and transparent. And if you have a group that I can be put in front of, it could be Zoom style, it could be in person. I would really, really like that opportunity um, to sharpen this talk up and give it more times to more people. So if you have a group um, that I can be put in touch with, I would really, really, really value that. So anyway, so I finished my treatment on the 20th. Today's the 27th. So I talked to the doctor at length afterwards on the 20th about where do we go from here, so far as you know. She basically said in the next few weeks is when you may feel the effects of the radiation. For example, it could be, shortness of breath or coughing, although she thought it was a pretty sort of small chance of that, like 5 to 8%. And uh, she said also I could feel uh, fatigued, I guess. I haven't felt any new fatigue, but I've remained fatigued since my hospitalization. So I don't know that I'd notice any additional fatigue, but maybe it hasn't come yet, and maybe I won't get it. And I don't know the odds, but I have heard that a number of times. It puts it in my mind that those odds are higher than the small percentage chance of the um, breath and breathing challenges. Um, so I kind of asked her, I said, look, I know you're not the medical oncologist, um, but do you have a sense of what might happen to me in terms of chemo? And I said, my sense here is that when I see my medical oncologist, Dr. Lim, here in this building, I think in May at some point, I can't remember, I guess I could tell you in May. Um, I don't see it right away. Uh, I tried to look up Dr. Lim, Lim, and it spell checked to Kim. Uh, so May 13th. Uh, so yeah, I think I have to add it to my calendar. But anyway, May 13th, I have a CT scan for Dr. Lim. So I assume it's right after that, within a few days. I just don't see it here. Um, so uh, my understanding is that I haven't had a PET scan, and that seems somewhat likely now. PET scan kind of, I guess, looks at the whole body and sort of highlights any cancer. Um, I will also have lab work for a ctDNA test and a CEA, um, both of which I believe were elevated the last time I was tested, which is why we are where we are, I think, or indicating another indicator of why. Um, so I said, This is what it's like. If I'm teaching, I kind of fake this part, but when I'm not with anybody, this is what it's like. Um, I'm just so tired, and it's like noon or something. Anyway, uh, I said to Dr. Peters, the radiation oncologist, that I think that I'm likely to get a PET scan, which Dr. Lim agreed I'm somewhat more likely to, um, and that at some point chemo will follow because there will still be some of it in my system. Um, and Dr. Uh, Peters, the radiation oncologist, said, definitely this is not exactly my expertise. That's not really for me to say, but I'm thinking that you will not get it right away, chemotherapy, but that it is in your future. I was rather thinking that I might be kind of ready for it right away. In any case, in that May date, my plan is to show up ready for chemo the day I see her and just be ready to do it. And if she says not till next week, great. If she says not till November, great. If she says sometime in the future, I'll also be ready. But my plan is just get ready. And this is the first period since this whole thing has happened that I have kind of a month off or a month and a half off before I have to get back to doctors. So really my focus is just going to be on working and working on my health. So meditation, eating, exercise, and rest. And then I'm in the best possible shape I can be in order for whatever comes next, in order to be best ready for whatever comes next. Um, so the CT scan is next, as well as blood work. I also asked them to loop in the hernia doctor because I don't know at what point that doctor may want to be looped back into plan. So, for example, if I'm not getting chemo right away, maybe getting the hernias addressed surgically in advance of chemo is the right answer. I also asked about getting a vaccination for COVID, which they agreed I should be getting. What I want to do is give it a few weeks to take effect before I start chemo. So I'd like to have that in the plan. So I'm going to try and get that done, I think, before May, so that if I do get chemo right away, um, uh, I will already have the vaccine gone through. They also said that based on the radiation, the blood levels of the ctDNA and the CEA are likely to rise as those things are pushed out and circulating in the system. Uh, so don't worry when you see those results rise. That makes sense, which that's completely reasonable to me. Um, so anyway, I'm in this interesting period of it's sort of spring. It's warming up. There's obviously a lot to do, and I don't have to run to a bunch of doctors unless I take a turn for the worse. Um, the hernia definitely feels like it's worsening, so I have no idea if there's a point at which I just am rushed to the emergency room because of a blocked bowel or impinged nerve or something. But so far, we're working just fine. Uh, I am planning to do a self-defense studies certification course, which would be on the order of 20 hours. I'm looking to get this off the ground this year. So if you're interested, reach out. If you're able to help, I definitely need the help. I'd like to plan a day where people can come here and help just sort of in the yard, planting and cleaning and painting and stuff. Maybe we can do another potluck picnic, but I don't know if that's in the cards. Um, most Thursdays, Harry's down here from Vermont helping out in general around sort of um, carpentry, electric, gardening, painting, fixing. If you want to give a hand, reach out to Harry and coordinate. Um, it's a good time to have a few hands on deck. Sometimes we can grab a lunch, sometimes we have breakfast early and then get to work. Sometimes he comes to poetry Thursday nights. By the way, we do have a poetry free thing for Thursday nights. I'm also working on wrapping a few of my poetry writings up into a sort of self-published or chapbook style thing. I could probably use some help from that if that's up your alley. Um, Definitely while you're out in the garden, if you have stuff to share, that you have extra plantings, bringing them by would be great, and we can figure out how and when to get them in the ground. Um, Hoping not to spend any money at garden centers this year. So if you have some seedlings or seeds or plantings or cuttings, it would be great. Particularly interested in small evergreens of any sort, really, so I can start to build some privacy around this place. Um, so one, two, three. Uh, if you got some waders and you want to come by and help in the stream, we need some help there. Um, all right, I think that's it. I think I'm just babbling now. Um, Twice a week on Thursday, twice a month on Thursdays, we do an applications class in person. That's at 4:30. So that's a nice time if you came a little bit in advance of that and helped out a little bit with some manual labor and then stayed for the class, or vice versa, did the class and then hung out to, rake for a bit or something. Um, Twice a month on Sundays um, at 11 a.m. We have a Xing Chuan class. Um, and I'm certainly open to scheduling a workshop at your place like soon, like this month. Get me somewhere I can drive to um, on maybe one of these weekends this month, before I'm potentially, strapped into some chemo or surgery schedule. So reach out if we can do that. Um, okay, thank you. Love.